Hello there, Ray here, and behind me is a new infinitely automatic wither rose farm for all dimensions, using a new technique to get 100% wither rose drops from baby chickens. Wither roses are a very useful item to farm up because they have special properties which allow them to apply wither effect to mobs. And you can easily use them to make some other pretty cool farms like I have done in the past, with my wither rose witch farm and in my wither skeleton skull farm. And they can also be used to make suspicious stews or even black dye in the game. I have designed quite a few wither rose farms in the past, so if you're looking for one that is straightforward and a little easier to understand, I'll link the other designs down below. Now the main advantage of this design here is that it allows you to build it up in any dimension, where the other one that we designed is for the end dimension. And the design is also infinitely automatic, meaning that it will continue to run without any new input from the player. You could also run this without the player altogether by putting it in your spawn chunks, since the main components of this farm are all entities that can run in the spawn chunks all by themselves without having to have the player being in the area. Now the way that the game produces wither roses is pretty weird, as we found out when designing this farm, but the main basis of this farm is that we have a wither over here that is shooting off wither skulls, and we have a chicken farm over here which is producing chickens. And these are produced through the eggs, which are shot out, and the wither skeleton will hit them with his skulls, and this will kill them, producing a wither rose. And the wither roses are collected up and put in the chest down below here. Now this design originally started when Exumavoid asked me for some help on his wither rose farm, and he was having trouble converting his chickens over into wither roses. So we tried to figure out why his design wasn't working as productive as it should be, because every single chick or chicken that's produced by the farm should produce one wither roses, and that was clearly not happening in his design. And overall it turns out to be very difficult to make a baby chick be converted over into a wither rose. And we did a lot of testing trying to figure out what was exactly going on here, where was the wither rose going, and how was the game actually determining if the chicken died by the wither or not. We did some theorizing with Wootex, thinking that maybe the wither skulls were actually destroying the rose. And we came up with a solution which would allow us to always get a wither rose and not have it get blown up by the wither skull. The problem was that when the item was also dropped by the chicken, the explosion from the wither skull could destroy the item at the same time it is dropped by the chicken. And because of that, our solution was to allow the wither rose to be planted on the ground instead, and then later break it off using like a piston. But when it came to trying to apply this into an actual farm, it got quite difficult, as the baby chicks were even acting differently than the adults which we were doing the test with. And we had a lot of problems with the wither skulls breaking other stuff around the area, including the dirt piece which is holding up the rose. And this resulted in a 4-hour live stream of us trying to design up a system which would actually produce wither roses consistently. And after 40 different designs, we came up with this one, which is the final design. And the biggest difficulty was, once again, the baby chicks trying to get them converted over into wither roses without their items getting destroyed. It turns out the game will hardly ever convert a baby chick over into a wither rose, and in the few situations in which it will do it, there is a chance that it can destroy the item. So by having the baby chick sitting on just like a block and having the wither hit it, there's a good chance it's going to go ahead and destroy the wither rose, or the wither rose might not even be produced at all. And we tried all sorts of things, like having it go through water, trying to make it like slowly fall down in midair. The problem was the game really didn't like it when the chicken wasn't on a block. And the real secret came with the cobwebs here, which was an idea by Zoom Strikes. This allowed the baby chick to be firmly inside of the block, making the game think that they could drop the wither rose, and the wither skulls could easily hit them without destroying anything else around the area. Plus, it gave the benefit of allowing the chick to move very slowly in front of the wither, giving him enough time to actually hit the baby chick. And we have a pretty unique property where projectiles from withers can actually go right through them and not hit on them, so they won't get destroyed. This is actually quite different than even stuff like a string, which a wither skull will actually hit up against and destroy. But the cobwebs don't let all projectiles through it, so stuff like eggs can't go through cobwebs, and stuff like snowballs. So if you had like a snow golem, he wouldn't be able to shoot through this, but a wither skull, but a wither would be able to shoot through it. So the system we have here to get infinite amounts of baby chicks is kind of like a cooked chicken farm. We have a whole bunch of laying chickens up here, which will lay eggs, and they'll be picked up by this hopper. Then they'll be pushed into this dispenser here, and this dispenser is attached to a smart clock, which as soon as there is an item inside, it will go ahead and turn on this clock, making the items being shot off by the dispenser. And on average, the chickens will lay an egg every 5 minutes. So you can put more laying chickens if you want to get more wither roses. And the eggs will kind of come out slowly, a few at a time, whenever the chickens lay them. And the dispenser will shoot these eggs off into the cobwebs, which will collide, creating the baby chicks. And those will be hit by the wither, and this will create wither roses, and those are dropped down and picked up by the hoppers, which are underneath. And we also have some flowing water here. This just allows it so that if a baby chick comes down, it will try to bob in the water a little bit, and this will just give it a little more time for the wither to hit it with the skull. Then the wither roses, wherever they fall, are going to be picked up by all these hoppers that we have all around it, and then they're going to be pushed into this chest down below. Now you can see there's some other components to this farm as well. We got the wither on this side, and we got the wither targets on this side. Now the wither is being held in by some cobble walls. So if we turn on the wither's hitboxes by doing F3 plus B, we can see these cobble walls are surrounding the wither, and they are tall enough so that the wither can't easily walk straight forward and over top of them, since these are all 1.5 blocks tall. So the wither can't walk forward, but can the wither fly upwards? Well, he can't fly upwards either because we have a stack of 3 boats on top of his head. And boats are different than minecarts, where mobs as well as players can't just walk right through them. And they are solid, so you can walk like on top of them and stuff, just like they are a block. So this kind of collision is preventing the wither from being able to fly upwards. Now the boats themselves are being held up by this slab over here on the side, but they're also being held up by the wither. So if you remove this slab, they would just stay on top of the wither's head. But this slab is actually important for this design. There is a strange mechanic that kind of came somewhat recently, that if there isn't a block underneath of the boats, they are able to wobble. So let's see if I can demonstrate this. I should be able to remove this, and it should stay on top of the wither's head. But there is a chance that the explosion will cause these boats to kind of wobble. And when you put a block here, for some reason it actually kind of stops it. And wobbling boat means that the boat is taking damage, and can also mean that the boat gets pushed upwards. And this kind of avoids all that problem. And it's the same solution that I use in my obsidian farms to do with withers and other wither cage farms I've designed in the past. So the wither is securely in his place, and I'll show you guys later on how to summon in the wither and properly maintain him. The wither is looking straight ahead of him, and he's actually looking at some targets over here. So we got 2 targets. We got a chicken in a minecart as well as a chicken on some snow layers. And if you guys see my obsidian farm, this will look pretty similar, where we have the wither looking at one target, and then we hide the target and we give him a different target to look at. So I'll show you guys how the farm kind of starts out. You start the farm out by having this chicken up and this trapdoor closed. And in this circumstance here, the wither can now see this target over here, and he will try to shoot this. So let's say you just come into the area or you just load the game. What's going to happen is the wither is going to look in front of him. And if we look here, this little red line is what the wither sees. We can even click on him, spectate him, and you can even see straight forward like the wither does, that little red line in front of us, that is one of the chickens, and that's what he sees. So he sees this chicken over here, and he's trying to shoot at it with his main head, which is this big one, as well as his 2 side heads. They're all trying to shoot directly at him. Now we don't want his main head to shoot because there is a small chance that he will shoot off a blue wither skull, which will destroy this ender chest as well as all the other blocks around it. It pretty much can destroy almost any block in the game. So to avoid his main head from shooting skulls altogether, what we'll do is we'll hide this chicken that he is currently looking for. So we lower him down here. Now the main head cannot find the chicken at all. But we have to give it a different chicken to look at, not for the benefit of the main head, but for the benefit of the side heads. So the main head is still currently looking at the chicken in the minecart. So he's looking kind of downwards. But the side heads are using the main head's line of sight, meaning they are looking through the same eyes as him. And all we need to give them is something to try to shoot at. If they have nothing to shoot at, then they will get bored and they will start to shoot off blue wither skulls, which are the very destructive wither skulls, which can destroy almost anything in the game. So currently the side heads are using the main head's eyes, looking through here and seeing this chicken over here. And they are attempting to shoot at it. So both of them are shooting at the walls on either side. And since the side heads will have their skulls shot out at the exact location of the side heads, it's very easy to block them from actually reaching the chicken in the far back over here. So this chicken is safe from them. Their first side head here is easily being blocked just by putting a pillar in front of it right here, and it's just colliding with that pillar. But the second side head we're actually using is Wither Skull to kill the chickens. Now we actually did a bunch of testing and found out that you can either use a side head or a main head to convert mobs over into wither roses. So by using a side head, we can avoid the main head's destructive random blue wither skulls altogether. So this makes it quite safe. So this guy going ahead and he is attempting to also shoot at the chicken at the back. So his wither skulls are kind of aimed in an angle from here straight through everything and into this chicken, meaning that he goes right through these cobwebs as well as hits up against this wall right here. And this is the wither skull that we use when converting baby chicks over into roses. So I put some more in here, you can kind of see, shoots them out, kills them. The wither rose is falling down as an item. As soon as it gets remotely close to this hopper, it's picked up. Now notice that the item itself never gets destroyed. This is because the skull doesn't collide against any blocks. It just collides against the chicken, and therefore it really doesn't apply the explosion damage to the nearby blocks. So we don't have to worry about the wither roses ever being destroyed. But we did have quite a bit of problems just using a cobweb trying to convert them over into wither roses. If we would shoot the dispenser from above, and if the chicks were on the edge of the cobwebs or on top when they get killed by the explosion, it would actually have a chance of destroying the cobweb. And because of this, we had to go ahead and put the dispenser right up against the cobweb. That way the chick would be directly inside of it. And the water also helps prevent the skulls from killing a chick which is on the edges of the cobwebs down here. Now there is a chance that one egg will produce 4 chicks. So if we put a bunch of eggs in here, you kind of see what happens if you get tons of chicks in here. They can get kind of pushed around, which usually isn't a problem. What we did, we just went ahead and left some extra room on the end of this, so that if the chick kind of falls outside the area, they will just drop down and won't really affect the farm. You can see how this chick here is sitting in the water, and he is just waiting for a wither skull to hit him. The wither skulls can come out a little bit random, but yeah, there you go. He went ahead and killed it, and the wither rose got picked up by the hopper. And that's where the water helps keep the chick in the area until he does get hit. So I would recommend building this up quite high. If you can build it in the overworld or even in the nether or the end dimension, just build it far away from anything else, so you don't have to worry about the wither accidentally targeting the wrong mob. This also allows it so if a chick would happen to get pushed out, it can easily fall away from it and not cause any problems. Because next time you load the machine, if there's a chicken sitting right here, the wither will try to target that one instead of the dedicated targets over here. So I'll show you guys how to get the wither in its location, as well as how to operate this farm and how to get the chickens in. First ones I'm going to put in are the hen laying chickens up here. I'd recommend going ahead and try to put them as high as possible. And I just went ahead and put soul sand here to kind of raise them up away from the explosions. Because sometimes if you get them down too low, the explosions can damage them. So from up here, when they lay eggs, I'll just throw an egg in there. It will be able to get picked up by the dispenser and shot off. And you only use this one hopper to do this rather than chaining a whole bunch to get them much higher. Then you go ahead and close them off. And one thing you do have to be careful that if you build this like an overworld, lightning can come down and strike and hurt these chickens, or strike these boats and destroy them, or the wither, or even these chickens over here. So if you are going to build it in the overworld, I recommend building a glass roof over top of this, or any type of roof that is at least 10 blocks above the entity. So to summon the wither in, you'll want to have the wither T-shape over the center of where it's going to spawn in. Then you also want to put this X over top. This will prevent the wither from moving around when summoning it in. We also have some blocks over here to prevent the water from interrupting with the water over there. And you will be placing water in on this top slab here, which will prevent the explosions from destroying the blocks around the wither. This top slab will also prevent the wither from flying up too high during the summoning stage. And we also have these 3 slabs here to prevent the explosion damage from destroying these boats over here. You also want a walkway which will take you all the way around to this chicken over here, this lever, and you'll want to have this chicken down and this chicken hidden behind this trapdoor. And when it's time, you'll want to flick this lever to allow the wither to be able to see that chicken. So let's go ahead and get ready to go to summon in the wither. It'll be in survival mode. You can do this in whatever difficulty you want. You just want to place down a skull there and place the water in there. And then you want to run around to the backside and make sure you're not seen by the wither. And just flick this lever as soon as the explosion occurs. There's explosion. Go ahead and flick that lever. And now the wither is contained in his wither cage. He can't escape. He is just fine the way he is. You can go ahead and remove this water if you want to. And now he is attempting to shoot at this chicken back here. And what we want to do is switch these two chickens around. So we're going to move this chicken upwards. Then we're going to close this chicken off. Then we're going to unload the area. You can either leave through another portal. Just make sure these chunks unload, or you can just relog. And now the wither is attempting to shoot at this chicken in the minecart. And now we just switch them again. We open that one and move this one down. And this is the way you want to operate the farm in. Now if you have this in spawn chunks, it's going to be more difficult to go ahead and make the wither switch chickens, as the chunks are always loaded. Now the reason why we switch chickens is this chicken is just a little bit closer to the explosions over here, and if he's standing up here, there is a small chance that he'll take some damage from the explosions hitting up against this wall. And the reason why we keep that trap door closed until the wither does its explosion, because his explosion damage can actually go through that little gap in the ender chest and come back here and kill the chicken. You notice that these chickens also took a little bit of damage when the explosion occurred, but they shouldn't die. And the blocks that are around the wither, you could just leave them if you want to. They aren't really causing any problems. Or you can go ahead and remove them because they are no longer needed, like even the blocks up here and the blocks around him. Just make sure not to hit the wither. All these blocks aren't really being used right now. Now these boats are actually keeping the wither from going upwards, but you can hardly tell that. Only in this very small corner here are the wither and the boats actually contacting each other. And it doesn't matter which way the wither moves inside this little block here, he's unable to escape these boats. It don't matter if the boats are on the far opposite corner. These walls here will prevent the boats from getting too far away from the wither. Now we also have some light sources down here, just to kind of prevent other mobs from spawning around here when you're not nearby. And I recommend building this up in an area that you normally don't visit that often, because every time you load this area, you need to make sure to switch the chickens, like one goes up, one goes down kind of thing, because otherwise there's that small chance that he would shoot off a blue wither skull, which would destroy this, and then once this is destroyed, he would try to shoot at the chickens in the background. So maybe have like another portal that takes you out this far. Now when you build this farm, you want to make sure that the wither as well as all its targets, these two over here, are all within the same chunk. So you can pull up F3 plus G to show where the chunks are in the game. And that's where you want to make sure to build the farm. That way when you load it up, the wither is loaded with the targets all in the same chunk. Now when it comes time to kill the wither, I'll show you guys you can do this in survival. The wither is completely safe once he has found his targets. You can stand here right beside him all you want. And when it comes to killing him, you just want to use a smite sword. Or you can use any sword, so it just has some sharpness on it. Then what you want to do is make it so the wither can't see you. So you want to put some blocks here so he can't see you with his head. And then just come in here and take a whack at his feet about once every second. So just whack him and wait a little bit. And then whack him some more and just keep this up. And you should be able to kill him. Just make sure not to walk too close to him so he can see you. Essentially, if you can't see his little red line, then he can't see your red line. That's kind of the way it works. And right now the wither continuing to try to shoot at the chickens, and because he can't see you, he's not going to really pay attention to you because they don't think he can go after you or shoot at you. Yeah, just by doing this you could eventually kill the wither safely without worrying about him attacking you back or doing any kind of destroying of the surrounding area. Now the wither might look like he's turned, but he will still continue to shoot at the chickens. And you can even jump, try to get crit hits on the wither. This will just do more damage. And once you kill the wither, he is pretty much killed just like any other wither. He'll drop his star. And the area is pretty much exactly the way we had it before. Doesn't take too much to go ahead and resummon the wither in. Now when we originally designed this, we thought it was going to be a fairly simple farm to build up. But whenever you work with like withers and all their quirky mechanics, such as like the wither rose mechanic and how they come into the game, it's never as easy as you first think. In the end, we had a 100% conversion rate from baby chicks over into wither roses, and it makes a great farm to build up in any dimension, including building in your spawn chunks where it can run 24/7 without players online. This is because the chickens which lay eggs aren't based on players being around them, and their eggs can be dispensed into baby chicks without needing the players to load the chunks either. Now if you are looking to build this up in your very own world, I highly recommend checking out the world download. That way you can practice summoning in the wither and also practicing building everything up just like it is in this world. And remember to leave a like on the video as well as share it with other people so they can learn about this cool method of converting baby chicks over into wither roses. I would like to thank you guys for watching, and bye-bye.